Hey guys, welcome back to weekly video. Hope you had a great weekend. So last week we saw the A wave play out, the B wave and the C wave, right? This C wave played out pretty fast because of Jackson Hole. And you can see the targets for the C wave are generally the 1.23 fib and between the 1.618 fib. So at the most, I can see this market, push down to 3950, but I think that's where this C wave likely ends. And we've start on this B wave upwards, right? I think minimum target 4,200, max target's probably 4,260, right? 4,180 to 4,200. I would say the minimum target. So I am still looking at something like this. This is what I had last week, and I should have just stuck with this chart, right? I, for some reason, thought we'd fill 4,250 before we come down, but we just came down immediately. But yeah, bigger picture, the chart hasn't changed. I'm still, watching this chart across many indexes as well. And alternatively, the bull version last time we had a 4-5, which obviously it's not yet broken, right? It's not yet broken if we consider this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, but I would honestly say that would not be highly probable, right? I'd rather show you a bear case versus a highly probable bull case in this instance. So this is kind of what, right? If you were bullish, most bulls would make this your 1, 2, right? They'll probably call this a 3, they'll call this a 4, and they have a fifth wave higher. Honestly, the structure doesn't really match this said wave, right? If you take this 1, 2, 3, 4, like wave 3 is not this choppy, right? Like it would not be in such a structure, but if this entire thing was your ABC, maybe some kind of leading diagonal in a wave 1 is probably what they're going for. But honestly, I don't see this highly probable. If you are bullish this week, right, this is kind of what I see, right? A B wave bounce before a C wave lower is kind of what I'm watching. And if I had to draw a more bearish case, this would be my 1, 2, my 3, 4, 5, right? This would kind of be the more bearish case that I am watching. Something like this where that would be my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an A, B, and a C. So I would the same ABC, but in a more bearish drawn out scenarios. It's kind of how I would look at that. So yeah, those are your bull and bear cases, right? With that being said, I did have a watch list, right? Based on this week's listing, and the first stock I have is NVDA, right? So you can see this is the level, right? If you scroll, I know it's a lot of lines. But if you scroll out in the past, you can see this is pretty much the area of demand all the way from May that NVIDIA has been getting bought up, right? So at the most, right, any dip into the 150s, right, 157 to 155 would likely yield a bounce, right? So you can see I have NVIDIA on this week's watch list, right? Entry 159 to 155, stop 151, and again, 170 to 173, right? Minimum targets can either get rejected there and come back down or try to push to like 180. So this is what I have for NVIDIA. The next one I have is OXY. As you guys know, I have been bearish on oil, right? And you can kind of see that we are still kind of sideways, right? We did have a dip down, but so far we are bouncing. So as long as, right, again, let's have both the bull and bear case for oil, right? You can see that I said if it breaks 96, then oil would, kind of be bullish. So again, I'll be watching 96, right? That's the kind of area, like if you were bullish, I'd expect it to break and go higher. However, if I was bearish, right, I would expect oil to, reject here and come test the lower trend line. So in that regards, right, you can see on the lower time frame that this is actually the channel, right? Oxy was in, we retested, we failed, and we're just kind of sideways on Oxy, and it does have a gap to fill at 68, so that's kind of what I'm targeting. When Oxy breaks 72.5, I have like 68.7-ish as my target. So a very short trade. And you can see it's also the trend line support. So I'm just kind of expecting Oxy to come down, right, before it bounces. So it's kind of what I have. For Oxy, let's look at the next one. Next one is Microsoft. Microsoft kind of plays off the bounce on the chart as well, right? It's sold off more than the rest of the stocks. And therefore, it kind of laggy and has more to bounce compared to the rest of the market as well. At the most, right, again, you can see this is an area of support. I can see it probably, dip into 260s if it wanted to have some weakness today before it reversed. So as you can see, I have entry as 265 to 262. Stop is 260 and 270. Minimum targets 280 plus maximum targets. So that's what I have for Microsoft. The next one I have is Square. Square again, right? You can see that in a WXY wave, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bit of a messy chart, but ultimately I want to point out that this area right here is an area of demand, right? You can see right here, every time we've hit this level, we bounced out. So I can definitely see, right? Square entry from 66 to 64, target 70, 75, right? Into this gap fill is 78, stop 63. And the last one I have for this is watching is Pfizer. I've mentioned this a bunch of times. You can see it's just been chopping sideways. This is the 2-year trend channel, and it actually gapped down below. So I don't think it will, try to bounce higher. But yeah, I think that Pfizer is finally breaking down, right? It's still, right, till it breaks 45. It's not really, like, how do I put it? It's not confirmed, right? It can still do bear trap and still do something like this, but I'd say it's highly unlikely given how the weekly chart is looking on Pfizer, right? You can see that inside week gap down followed by another gap. So as long as it bounces and stays below 47, right, I think it's going to get rejected and come down to 44, 42. It's a slow mover, so I don't think it will make such a drastic move, but it should make a good enough move. So that's why I have Pfizer on this week's watch list, right? With that being said, let's start looking at some of the indicators like Wix, right? Wix, it rejected here, made a lower high and bounced higher, right? So Wix also, you can see the 1.618 fib. If the market wants to sell lower on Monday, it'll probably go up to 29, but that's probably where this, this rally ends, right? This is kind of where you would expect this rally to end, and you would expect it to, come sell off before it tries the top of this trend line again. So it's kind of what I'm watching for. On Wix, obviously you can't wave it, but I just draw it to give a sense of direction to what I'm seeing. In dollar, you can see we topped out and now we're selling off. So I think it's likely going to come down for the wave 4 on dollar, which could lead to a bounce on the broader market, right? And we can see that every time we've overthrown this channel, it's likely come back inside, and it's kind of what I expect for dollar as well. So yeah, you can look at some of the FANG stocks like Apple. Apple, again, we saw the channel broken. This was an A, a B, a C. Again, this 159, 160 was kind of where I had my target for Apple. So I kind of expect Apple to bounce off this level, right? Similar for Amazon, right? We are into the gap fill, but I find it very highly unlikely. We actually feel that gap at the most, right? I can see it try to come down to 126, 125, but again, I still expect a bounce on Amazon as well. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla, we've been sideways, right? We've been sideways in this wedge, though we're opening below the wedge, right? If we get bought up, then I think we're still going to be stuck sideways, right? Like this. But however, the bear version for Tesla would be if we start to break below 279, then I think you can see there's a gap period of 249, right? I think Tesla comes down to fill that gap. So yeah, 279 is kind of the line in the sand for the bulls, right? On Tesla, we already went over Microsoft. Let's go over Google. So Google, again, this was a channel. We did break the channel, right? And Google has been very messy, like in the sense that it's the weakest of all the FANG stocks. But again, this is a level of demand. You can see we have considerably bounced off this range. So I'm still watching something like this on Google as well. Netflix, we know this channel has broken. This was our 4. Let me go to a smaller time frame. All right. This was our 1, 2. This would be our 3 or 4. So it didn't have that ABC bounce, right? What was likely going to happen on Netflix was this is your 1, 2, your 3, your 4, coming down for a 5, right? In a bigger ABC. So this is kind of what I see for Netflix as well. So yeah, most of the stocks, a little bit of downside is still going to lead to the upside. So that's kind of where I came up with a 4,200 plus target, right? It's because I kind of anticipate that wave B bounce into next week before a wave C. This was my original chart. So honestly, since it's playing out, I'm just going to stick with it and not ask any questions till we start to break key levels, right? So this is just kind of my take for this week's market. I hope you have a great day. Trade safe.